We're here with Netto. He's going to tell us about the time he died. Netto?
Hi. Uh, in 2015, August 20th, which is my second birthday now, it's going to be my eighth birthday if you count coming back to life as a birthday, as a restart. I was on the computer talking to my friend, and I felt like I was having a heart attack, but I always get heartburn and I wasn't sure. But when I started throwing up, that's the heartburn. You don't do that. And one side of my body went numb. So I kind of knew. And it was like 10 o'clock at night, about.
Yes.
And I don't know why, instead of calling an ambulance, my wife, Barbara, my loving wife, decided that she was going to drive me. So I come downstairs, and she's like brushing her teeth, doing her hair, and I got really upset so I lit a cigarette, and she says to me, "I can't believe you're smoking in the house. Not that you're smoking and you're having a heart attack, but you're smoking in the house." So we went and we got a basin to bring in the car, and we drove past Hackensack Hospital to
Holy Name.
what?
Holy Name.
Holy Name Hospital, which is another 15 minutes away, because she worked for there, and it would be less money, So we're driving, and I see all the trucks and people on bicycles passing us on Route 80, and we get there, and then they asked me to fill out something, and she took care of it, and they went into this room, and they hooked me up to wires to everything, right? Yeah. And she was sitting in the room with me, and I was like, "Did you fill out the paperwork?" And it's like somebody pulled the plug out. And I remember my voice getting deeper and slower. And then she said at that point I had flatlined. And at that point, my end of the deal was, all of a sudden I was in a factory at the foot of Garrett Mountain, one of these old factories. And that was all cobblestone parking lot. And it was an old factory with real high ceiling, and there was giant cutouts in the walls with gigantic fans blowing with fans on. And there were all these really tall, muscular men with sledgehammers and anvils, and they were making sparks as they were hitting the anvils with the sledgehammers. And the next thing I knew, I remember it was cool, it was cold, but I was sweating. And then the next thing I knew, I was in my truck, my work truck, driving a tanker truck. And I was driving down the same road my wife had driven me to get to the hospital, Route 80, going towards Fort Lee. And I was alone, and I'm like, okay, I know this road goes to the George Washington Bridge. I'm not dead. I'm dreaming. Because if I was dead, it would go to a tunnel. There would be the light at the end of the tunnel that everybody sees. Unless I jump off a bridge, it doesn't symbolize, let me know I'm dead. So as we get to Lemoyne Avenue, which is right at the end of Fort Lee by the Palisades, I don't see the George Washington Bridge. I see the Lincoln Tunnel. And I'm like, shit, I died. And then I tried to steer the truck into the wall, and the steering wheel came out. I tried to jam on the brakes, and the brakes didn't work. And I'm like, and as I was entering the tunnel, just as I was like set the first foot of my truck, the bumper enters the tunnel, the truck disintegrated underneath my chair. Everything disintegrated all around me, and the tunnel disintegrated. And next thing I know, I'm sitting up, and everyone is screaming at me, lay down, lay down, lay down. And she tells me she was in the room, and she can jump in anytime she wants. She was in the room.
I was in the hallway.
They chased her out when I died.
They made me leave the room.
And they had tried that didn't work. They tried the electric
the paddles.
And they just burned my chest. And by this time, I was dead for like 4.5 minutes, close to 5. And none of this was working. So they tried their last resort. They gave me a needle of adrenaline right to the heart. And I guess I was like reanimated. I just sat up. And they were screaming, "Lay down." And
being in the hallway, all I heard was clapping. I just heard everyone in the room started clapping, which was a good sign because they brought him back. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And the next day, the doctor in the emergency room came and visited me. And he's like, "Are you the same patient?" Usually when someone's dead that long, they're not cognizant. The lack of oxygen going to the brain affect. You look like nothing happened to you. You look like nothing, zero. I would never guess you had any kind of trauma, let alone were dead.
Oh my God, what do you make of it that you didn't go to the other tunnel that all the other dead people go to, that you went through the Lincoln tunnel?
I don't know what tunnel they go through, but I know there was no light. I didn't want to, I was just trying to crash my truck and stop it from going.
But how has it changed your approach to life now, Netto?
I'm not afraid of anything except rattlesnakes at night. But, yeah, I take more risks, and I really don't. Oh, how would you would have to ask someone that lives with me. Go ahead. How am I different?
I would say that's pretty accurate, that you're not afraid, you don't get fearful of having cancer or having
I've had all these
COVID.
things.
He had COVID twice. There was, and he has
Cancer,
preconditions. So, but
sugar diabetes. I got
not
all.
afraid of it. Not afraid of it.
So you're not afraid of dying?
No. I'm 70. Let's be honest. Everything's behind me. The best of everything is behind me.